I have my book with me.
Oh, that would be great. In fact, one lady, Jennifer Garnard, she has sent a book all the way from Germany to my house.
Wow.
So I
She
will be
sent it.
expecting your book in my house as well one
Oh,
day.
very good. That's great.
Sure.
I'm very happy about that.
Yeah. Go ahead, sir. Well, sir. Hi, good evening, one and all. Welcome to another episode of the interview hosted by Lakshman Rao. And today, the guest for my show is David Leo Serois, a Canadian and American poet. Here we do welcome you, sir, onto our show.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
So, how do you feel, sir? Are you feeling excited, enthralled,
Oh,
inspired?
very excited, and I'm awake now and enthusiastic.
Yeah, more of enthusiastic. Okay. Oh, that's nice to know. So I would like to go ahead with your short bio. Later on, from there on, like we go ahead with an interview. So I would read out your short bio here. Mr. David
Okay.
Leo Serois is a Canadian-American poet, published 161 times in 21 countries. His work has been translated into 13 languages. He hosts Spoken Word Online, the Zoom arm of Spoken Word Paris. His first collection is called Humble Doves, poems on pigeons and plants, for which he has won for which he has, yeah, that's the book over there, for which he has won the third prize in winning writers, Regal from Nimmer Poetry. He teaches workshops online for the Bombay Review as well as the Poetry Academy of Poetry Global Network. His poetry has appeared in journals such as the Bombay Review, Artemis Journal, Angles, New Perspectives on the Anglophone World, the Poetry Village, One Hand Clappings, Poetry Superhighway, and Terra Sire, which also publishes its translations into French poetry. That is amazing, sir. And the other aspect is like David is a multi-talented, multifaceted uh, person who has been featured on innumerable international programs, podcasts, and interviews. Featured in films and music, is also a singer, writer, radio DJ, as well as film, TV, theater actor. So here we do welcome Mr. David Leo Serois onto our show on a grand note. Thank you, sir. Welcome, and it's an honor and privilege to have you on our show.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here, and very, it's very wonderful to just be able to read poetry and be asked questions and to live the life of a poet, not just an
Yeah,
ordinary worker.
yeah,
So
true.
it's great when poetry is
That
the
is the main,
subject.
yeah, that is the main core concept of this show, wherein like we would like to explore the poet, more of a poet than of a person, to bring the insights of a poet. Yeah, that's the main ideology of this show.
Perfect, perfect.
Thanks for our invitation and thanks for being on our show once again.
You're welcome.
Well, sir, like yeah, we came to know like you almost completed some 5 manuscripts. Are you ready with 5 manuscripts, 5 books that are ready for publication?
Yes, I keep sending my finished manuscripts to different contests and publishers and
Okay.
getting a lot of rejections, but I'm very patient and I have much confidence that I'll win one of these contests and get one of my
So
serious books out.
yeah, you had like in your book, like in one line, I found this like, how do you put is the fact that that it it's a poetry is a bridge between word and word.
Yes. Well, I made up the maxim a true poet is a
Yeah,
bridge between words and then with the elder
and the
a
word,
bridge between worlds.
word and
So for in the major way, like between worlds, I see a poet as kind of a shaman or some kind of spiritual being that connects the earthly realm with the heavenly realm and attempts to speak from a place of great deep consciousness. Uh, but I also see a poet as a bridge between words in the way that Rabindranath Tagore says in his book Fireflies, where he says that it's not the words that matter, it's the spirit that jumps from word to word
Oh,
that
yeah,
really matters. I
true.
love how Tagore said that.
Cool. Yesterday, being a World Poetry Day, I had one line of mine as a quote, wherein I said, like, I'm a word in the world. I'm a word in the world and a burst in the universe. You
Ah,
know,
wonderful. I'm a bird in the world and a verse
a
in the
word in the
universe.
world and and a burst in the universe. So that summarizes
Beautiful.
everything. So it all depends on how we poetize thing, how we play with the words.
Oh, well, the theme of the book uh, is just a respect for animals, for plants as
Yeah,
being conscious beings and kind of characters. So the birds take on kind of funny personalities. They're interested in fashion. They have, love relationships between themselves. Um,
yeah.
but also there's a spirituality that comes through, in respecting plant life and speaking to a plant as if it were a person, and this type of a spiritual connection as well with nature.
Yeah, after going through your pigeon poems, I felt like you have done some R&D research on pigeons itself.
Well,
Just because,
interestingly, no research, uh, no research, just looking with joy.
okay. So if at all I had to retitle the book, like I would have gone with humble doves and earthly plants. You have
I
two
like that.
segments. You have two
Yes,
segments,
yes,
like the humble doves as well as earthly plants. Plants also, yeah. So that way. So how
very
did you
true.
arrive at that title? How did you come up with the title like humble doves?
Well, I love the idea, and it's a fact really, that uh, pigeons are a kind of dove,
Yeah.
kind of a common form. So I think of them as a humble form of dove. They're not, showing all of their beauty and grace and symbolism. They're more in our everyday life, in our cities and among people. And so I think of them as a humble form of dove. So humble doves is a word I came up with.
That's nice. That's nice too. Well, when I read your poems, you have a simple and a subtle way of saying things. Is this the style that you have evolved to be a different, or it's the most natural form that you have expressed through your poetry?
It's very natural. I don't try to be different or
Yeah, it's a
impress
very
people.
much a organic process. I have found that. Yeah,
Yes, absolutely. Because I'm just from the heart. I'm
yeah.
responding to nature, and so there's no artifice in a sense. It's just a natural expression of the heart.
Yeah, that's a fine way of putting it across.
Thank you.
So, how much are you fascinated with pigeons? Rather we have very social birds like the crows, cuckoos, and nightingales. So, why are you so much fascinated with the pigeons themselves?
It's funny. Well, I do love cuckoos and nightingales and crows. I find very interesting too. I love birds, especially owls. Uh,
Okay.
but the pigeon is just so cute to me, so funny and interesting. And it's kind of like they have their own little world or society. And it's beautiful how they kind of have a symbiosis with human beings where crumbs might fall from a baguette that a person is holding in Paris. And to the pigeons, it's like, wow, this is a feast. And to the person, it just happens as they walk by. So you mentioned the line, whole baguettes, blessed sidewalks, and never again would birdsong be the same. And so in French, blesser is to strike or to hurt. So there's a French joke in there, but to say that baguettes blessed sidewalks, like they hit the sidewalk, but they do bless the sidewalk because they scatter their crumbs and feed another life form. Uh, and then the "Never again would birdsong be the same" is a line actually I took from Robert Frost. So there's a lot of allusions as well, even like in my serious poetry. And in Robert Frost's poem, his wife had just died, and his response to her death was, "Never again would birdsong be the same." And so it takes this tragic tone, and I turn that upside down to give it a comic tone in my poem. So it has its literary references, but I love that I can include everything in this description of the birds. So there's some serious, some philosophical, and some funny elements all together.
So, if at all I have to put it across this way, like I prefer cuckoos and nightingales, just in reference to poets, like cuckoos and nightingales, they are in a deep plants or trees, invisible, like the poets in the crowd. They are like invisible poets, invisible
Oh, good
birds.
point.
Okay, while
Yes,
the crows or the pigeons, they will be on the public, on the crowd. Okay,
that's
so
true. There,
that way, like I like cuckoos and nightingales, which are invisible as the
there,
poets.
yes, there's this. How is this song coming from the trees? We
Yeah,
don't see them. That's
without
true.
being
I love
seeing them. Yeah,
Beautiful. I love blackbirds, for example, and their song is so gorgeous, but I never know where the song is coming from. So yes, they're
yeah,
cloaked in the leaves. It's fascinating.
yeah.
They're
So
not they're not walking around our feet.
yeah, true. So there was a few lines which I have written about cuckoos and the nightingales. That's another part. Well, coming to your poetry here, there are many metamorphical titles such as the Queen of Beggars, Vanity Pigeon, the Secret Pigeon Balls, Gravity Pigeon. How do you come up with these various titles of various themes based on the same subject on pigeons again? Because the
Oh, thank you.
subjective on the objective is the same, but the themes vary, slightly vary. The color is the same and the shades differ. So that is
Yes,
what I'm going to ask.
they are very different. Well, when I first saw a pigeon in Paris that was completely in white, and she was surrounded by all these colors of, the regular colors of pigeons in their blue and green and black. So she stood out as like this angelic figure. And so, if pigeons are considered to be beggars, begging for crumbs or uh, living off of people in a method of kind of begging, then I would call her the queen of beggars because which is of course an oxymoron. A beggar is considered a low form of person, and then a queen is the highest. But queen of beggars, she just
Okay.
radiates her grace.
Yeah.
And then other poems are much simpler in their title, like
Yeah.
Gravity Pigeon is
Gravity.
about a pigeon's,
Okay. That
what they
comes
drop
down.
from the sky. And Vanity Pigeon is
Vanity
a
pigeon.
joke about a pigeon who's very self-conscious about his looks and his
Okay.
fashion, and the idea that he puts in hairspray, into his feathers.
So that's so much interesting to see the various aspects of the themes around the pigeons. That's something that was very much interesting and fascinating to know about it. So
Thank
that
you.
is here in this poem. Like let me read it out this poem for you. Like dear mirror, wherein you say sorry mirrors, no grinning narcissus, but echoes once soulful, hopeless note. You with the counterpoint. Who am I? To whom do I belong? When strangers stare with total disapproval, I can absorb the poison sting or continue to sing. See, the last line gives a philosophical touch or an intellectual note. I can absorb the poisoned sting or continue to sing. So, how do you describe
Thank
it?
you. I love that. As a person growing up in a small town in northern Maine, and I live just across the bridge from Maine now, I'm in Canada, but I was often regarded as strange and very not accepted, by people normally. and some people even ask me where do I come from, and I come from here, you know. Uh, so when I get looks of disapproval from people uh, that don't like my style or how I look different from them, because most of the guys around here look like cavemen. They have, you know, big beards and a baseball cap, and they drive a truck and all that. So I look different. So if people stare at me with with disapproval, I feel personally that I can either absorb the poison sting, like take it personally and feel bad, or continue to sing, like ignore any disapproval from others and continue to sing my song, to write and to perform, uh, regardless of how other people think of me.
So even if you are in the crowd, we need to be conscious about ourselves. We need to solidify ourselves. We need to find the solitude space of ourselves to create a consciousness of ourselves and to create something. This is what I believe.
Absolutely. Yes.
Is it
Uh,
true?
yeah, I believe that you know, all poems are really written in solitude or in a solitary state of mind,
State of mind.
even if you're maybe in a cafe among other people, but it comes from a deep
Yeah,
solitude.
true.
So I perfectly agree with that. And so I spend most of my time alone. And when I'm on the
Most
radio,
most poets.
yes, I think that's true. That's true. And even in my work,
Most poets are
oh,
isolated poets or lonely poets or like solitary
yes,
reapers sort of people.
absolutely. And even at work, when I'm on the radio, I'm alone uh, with my microphone and I'm talking to 200,000 people. But but I'm sitting there alone, coming up with jokes and trying to sound friendly and funny and professional as well. But I'm sitting alone in a room. Even, you know, other people work in an office maybe, or outside with construction work. But even at my work life, I get to be
So
alone. So,
yeah, that's nice. That's nice. So in
yeah,
this
I love
context,
it.
yeah, in this context, I would like to give a quote of mine. I would like to cite a quote of mine, wherein it states like, "I'm alone when I'm in the world, but I'm a world when I'm alone. I'm a world when I'm alone by myself." So that's how the quote
Beautiful.
goes.
Yes,
So
yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
here,
love that.
yeah, here another poem, The Pigeon Convention, brings the imagery of crowded pigeon center. Like you bring in the confluence of all the pigeons in a one center. I don't think like you left out anything related to pigeons. You have brought in a convention center for pigeons. There's one poem.
Yes, yes. It's very ironic, and I'm joking about, you know, corporate life and how they have
Yeah.
discussion clusters, and they're always chattering in the office and you know, working things out. So when I saw a group of pigeons together outside of a real convention center, I thought, well, they're having their own convention right here.
Convention center there. Yeah. I love this line like, "Old baguettes, blessed sidewalks, never again would bird song be the same. Old baguettes, blessed sidewalks, never again would bird song be the same." So it means like the birds will never sing the same song, or else no person will be the same person the next time.
That's, well, I feel like depending on one's inner state, their subjective state, then everything seems different to them. So
Yeah.
if I'm depressed, I might hear the song of a bird as one thing, but if I'm ecstatic, I might hear the song in another way because of
Okay.
where I am. Yes,
Yeah. So in this poem, there's another poem like "Polish Your English." I would like to read few of your lines. "Would I recognize this bird if I were on the sun's side? Doubtful, I philosophize. From here, it appears darker than the pupils of my eyes." So, what's your philosophy towards life and poetry in common? or indifference?
Well,
What's
they're
your
very
philosophy,
much
life, and poetry in common or in difference?
they're very much in common because even if I'm describing a bird that I see through a window that's glazed, and so I can only see this black form, uh, I know that if I was on the other side, if I was in the sunlight, uh,
Yeah,
I would see it from a different perspective. But right now it looks blacker than the pupils of my eyes. Uh, However, these are just parts of the same world. Even on a spiritual level. It's not like there's the spiritual world and there's the real world. I
yeah,
see them all as being uh, one consciousness, one world, really,
yeah.
with no separation.
Here, I believe like you have an Indian touch to you, like you are somewhere connected to Indianness. Here in this poem, The Taste Land, you have mentioned that the Ganges was sunken and the leaves waited for me. I look the I look like the rain. Death by water is the sidewalk pond. I rose and fell, watched my birth and death. Sweet scene, run softly till my end song. Sweet scene, run softly, for I speak not loud or long. So these are more philosophical lines from my perspective. So give me shed some light on from your perspective.
Okay. Well, firstly, it's the poem is called "The Taste Land," so
Taste
I'm
land.
playing with the wasteland, of course, from T.S. Eliot, and so I use some of the lines like in the wasteland. One of the things that the speaker says is he's near the Thames River, so he says, "Sweet Thames, run softly, for I speak not loud or long." And of course, being in Paris, I was at the time I was saying, "Sweet Seine, run softly."
Yeah,
So I was playing with C.S. Eliot's lines at times, but I loved how he used the image of the Ganges, and I feel a connection to India because I have a guru from India, and I chant mantras, I do japa and other I do meditation, etc. For at least an hour a day. Um, so everything is kind of seen through a kind of the philosophical lens of Kashmir Shaivism and Advaita Vedanta. Uh, all you can see it more in my serious poetry that all of its
yeah,
roots, it's philosophically rooted in
yeah.
Indian tradition and philosophy.
So coming away from the pigeons segment, when you come to the plant segment, like you are more of a philosophical person. Okay. There I found a little bit of intellectualism. Here I'm finding you to be more of a philosophical touch, with a philosophical touch and with a spiritual. In this poem, to the plant stranded on fire escape. According to the teacher, some simply called the mother. The flowers are very psychic, which they express through beauty and silence. They have very philosophical touch. So please shed some light on this.
Thank you. Well, I love Indian teachings and the
Okay.
fact that the woman they called the mother,
Yeah.
Mira, she was very much interested in flowers, and there's even a book that the mother put out of the spiritual meaning of all these different flowers and plants. And so when she says the flowers are very psychic, that's very striking to me because I'm addressing uh, plants as if they are human or as if they have consciousness, which I believe they do. So indeed, I feel the flowers are psychic, and she
Psychic.
says they express it through beauty and silence.
The beauty and
It's just
silence.
such a gorgeous line.
Yeah.
So
And it has an
yeah,
enigmatic appeal. No, it has an enigmatic appeal to it.
yes, it has a unique appeal to it. Absolutely.
So
Thank you.
that's where like the poet is understood when we put in some enigmatic lines or it's like with an exclamation that introduces the reader. It questions the reader, it provokes the reader, and it puts him in an abstract mode. No?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So in the middle of a simple poem about a plant
Yeah,
where there might be funny moments, there is that abstract moment as well where it could take the reader to a
Yeah,
philosophical level.
to
Uh,
philosophical and next to a spiritual level also. And
yes.
again in this poem, to a Gerber Daisy in a glass, you are a perfect and careful silence that drove me to speak to you a week too late. Now I must lay you on top. Tonight's trash. I'm going to die. So this is some sort of lovable lines wherein like you have fell in love with somebody, or it's like how did this come up?
Well, I've certainly been in love. I've been married twice,
Okay,
and
married
I've
twice.
uh, been with many beautiful and brilliant women along the course of my life.
Oh,
But of
that's
course,
nice.
in the thank you. So in the poem, though, the speaker's expressing love for this flower, and then it dies in a. It was the I put it in a champagne glass, and over that week the water turned into kind of a milky color, and of course the flower wilted and died. And then my reaction at the end after I lay it on the trash is, I am going to die. Like, uh, it just
So
reminds me of my own mortality.
yeah.
So kind of a serious moment in a
So
funny poem. So
like there's one line very like I quoted like this, like nothing philosophizes as death does. Nothing
yes,
spiritualizes as death does.
yes,
So death is one spiritual element that can spiritualize you or else philosophizes you to a greater extent. This is what I
yes,
believe.
absolutely.
Do you agree that? Hmm. That's nice.
Yes, yes, yeah. In the face of death, we have to examine, like, is there more to life? And so certainly the spiritual level can open up, and we see things a different way. That the
Well,
body might die, but the soul goes on.
well, David, like you write poetry and you try to see the other side of the poetry into music. You try to fusionize poetry into music also. You try to lyricalize. So, do you like poetry more or the music less, or the vice versa?
Uh, I like poetry more, and even though I'm a songwriter and I have had
Okay.
songs on the radio, which is a nice thing, the songs had poetic lyrics, but I prefer it when I improvise with these jazz musicians that are in
Okay.
England. Uh, I send them a recording of myself reciting a poem, and they create live improvisation around that, and I prefer that because it's like the poem is being set to music, but I'm still reciting the poem as it in its pure form. I'm not
Beautiful.
singing the lines. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's nice to
Even
have
in
music.
India, there are some great poets who want their poetry to be read as poetry, as a bookish poetry. Rather, they don't want to give it to any other forms of recitation or lyricalized into music or something. They just want their poetry to be in their purest form, to be read, to be in a bookish form. So most of the
Yes.
writers wanted that. So that's nice. That's nice to know that aspect as well. So,
Yes.
being a radio DJ, as you said, do you promote poetry in your sessions?
Well, sometimes I might say on the show, you know, I'm a I'm your resident poet, and I've been published in 27 countries or whatever. So
Yeah,
if you do any of the arts, I'm saying to the audience, if you sing or write or dance or paint or act, do what you love. You know, do what makes you happy. So I might mention that I'm a poet, but then in the context of saying, if you write, do what you love. This is very important, to live in that, to do the artistic expression as well. So I'm encouraging the audience to do their own writing and singing and acting, etc. So, and I mentioned yesterday on the radio that today I was going to be interviewed on this show, and that it'll be 8 p.m. in India, but 10:30 a.m. for me. And etc. So it's interesting, I think, to say these details, and I'm very happy to share. I'm proud of the fact that I'm being interviewed on a live show in India. So it's great to say that on the radio. So it makes me proud as well of my own achievements. So when I speak about that on the radio as well.
So, and it's an honor for us. Also. It's an honor, and we take pride in interviewing you as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, will you please recite this poem for us? Like, to a flower I have named. To a
You
flower I
want
have,
me to you want
please,
me to recite?
yeah. To
Yes,
a flower I have
sure.
named. Because here,
Absolutely.
yeah, you recite the poem. Later on, I'll come up with the poem. You recite the
Yes,
poem.
yes, I would love to recite it. Thank you very much. So, to a flower I have named,
Yeah.
I call these blossoms bells of time. They often dress in pink, though some are white as these, and they wear an air of sudden joy. Their cone-shaped core trumpets live triumphs. Tight buds, introverted green globes with clocks inside that count down to brittle petals. In a word, moribund. I see the sacred in memento mori. Of course, remember your own death. My mind unwinds while pale flowers stare at me, pupils beige and scarlet hearts, forever present mystery. My soul is simple as theirs, but wears the sour sweat of aged regret. From dust to dust, nothing is lost, but let's give the space between some warm meaning.
That's awesome lines. That's awesome line.
Thank you.
You bring in
Thank
your
you.
ideology. You bring in your ideology of your unconventional style of poetry in this poem. So, what do you want to say about this?
Well, I love how monks, and when they pass each other, at times would say memento mori, as I said, remember your own death. And
Yeah.
so that is very important, and it can spiritualize us because monks have said things like there are two things you should remember all the time, uh, God and your own death. So that makes one think I should think of God all the time because I'm not going to be here forever, and I want to make my life an offering. So I put this into the flowers and the birds because uh, they die as well, and so it brings to light the same philosophy that maybe a monk would have. So let's contemplate God while we're alive, as Kabir says. Don't wait till the moment of your death. Attain God right now.
So here, this another poem of yours, like to a stalk of flowers outdoors in September. Why do you play with now? So, will you please start from that line? Who do you play with now?
Okay, sure. So let me see. Who
You
do
can
you
start
play with
there.
now?
Now. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Who do you play with now? Is it just that fat bee I saw you with last week? You still have six closed buds on your stalk, while I am a mordant tone in a piece of free jazz. How dear you are, reminding me of something words can't freeze. Hope to see you in the morning. The,
So
the plant
it,
might die or I might die, so I hope to see them. Maybe I will.
it brings in hope and light, faith and beauty. It brings in love and light, faith and hope, sort of thing. That's very much interesting to know. And coming to the fag end of the show, like in the poem, the shampoo that can go through statues. Patience is the god of. So how do you philosophize it? Patience is the god of silence.
Oh, patience is the god of change. Yes.
Change, yeah.
Uh,
Patience is the god of.
it's funny because yeah, in the middle of a poem about getting struck by a dropping from a pigeon, uh, I'm saying as it kind of a in a joking, ironic way, patience is the god of change. Like, if you wait, uh, then life will change around you, and what might be a problem or something disappointing to be hit by a dropping from a bird. Um, it can still change. Life changes from one moment to the next. So, be patient. Life isn't always about getting
Yeah. So,
droppings on your head.
so on this note, like for me, like if you say patience is the god of change, change doesn't come all of a sudden or else with something simple way. Change comes with some chaos, some sort of revolution or rebellious form. So change comes with constant repetition of changes. So that change transforms you, builds you, or else revives you, reinvents you, resees you, reforms you in a different modes. So today we are on a luckier note wherein like we are discussing poetry, and we never know like how and where it will take, how it will reform us and revive us. You know,
Yes,
so that change
um,
is constant. That change is very much constant over there.
yes, it does. Absolutely. And so you were mentioning something. Uh, could you say the question again, or if you would, please?
Uh, the same question, like patience is the god of change. How do you philosophize it?
Yeah, as I said, it's you okay. What this is what I wanted to say. So even in my songs, I have the same philosophy. I have a song called "Everything Changes," but I
Everything
say
changes.
everything changes in stages.
Stages,
Everything
phases.
changes. So just like you said, like sometimes slowly over time,
Yeah.
in one stage after another, uh, change is happening, and then all of a sudden we realize life is totally different than it used to be, but
Entire
it happened
wholesomeness
over
changes.
time. Yes,
In totality, everything changes. You know?
yes, indeed. But sometimes in stages. So
Yeah.
it's thank you for what you said.
Yeah. Well, David, on this note, like we have come to a conclusion, come to a fag end of the show. So, how do you feel being on this session?
Oh, I feel wonderful. Thank you so much for respecting my work and myself, and I respect you very much. It's a beautiful thing that you're doing. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, David. Like here we are to promote poetry, okay, to produce poets. We can't produce poets, but thing is like we can tap into the vibe of each and every poet, and we can try to bring in the intuitiveness of each and every poet, and to explore the poeticness from a poet. So this is what we are trying to do here. Thanks a lot. Thanks for
Beautiful.
coming on to our show, and it was a
Thank
great
you.
great learning and enriching experience for us. Signing off from Bangalore, India. Mr. David, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye bye.